I'm here with Choosing Presence author Jim Heaney, and as you begin this course, this self-paced course, we just wanted to give you some background on choosing presence, some of the reasons that brought Jim to the practice of presence and writing Choosing Presence, and also to give you some tips that may be helpful to you as you work your way through this course. So I want to welcome you, Jim. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Yeah. So if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, it wasn't a straight line for a lot of us to writing Choosing Presence. I mean, it took you some time to develop this, and it was born of your own practice, your own efforts to practice prayer and meditation. So tell us a little bit about what led to Choosing Presence.
Well, well, first of all, I've been involved with the CAC since 1997, and involved honestly in my church ministries. I was in jail ministry for over 20 years, and I just felt the need to write down my experiences of practicing presence. And I never really thought about writing a book, but then I wrote it down, and a friend of mine encouraged me. A priest friend of mine, Stan Bach, and I got in touch with a very good editor. Her name was Emily Witchland, and she did an excellent job. As I tell her, she made everything I said better. And it took actually, we thought the book was going to take 3 or 4 months, but it took 2 years. And of course, I felt this. There's a lot of people there's a lot of written on presence, and then people talk about presence, but no one's actually talking about how to do it. My background is I've been in business for over 40 years. I create a process that allows my business to be successful. But in order for it to be successful, you have to spend enough time actually working in it, the intricacies of it.
Right.
And then you develop a process that can allow ourselves to be successful. Well, same thing with choosing presence, being present. It's not, we can read about it, okay? But only when you become still does it go deep. It's not going to go deep just by reading about it or thinking about it. It only goes deep by doing it. And I wanted to stress that, the actual practice of presence and how powerful that is, because quite frankly, I never dreamed it could be that powerful in my life. Think about it. We answered 3 questions. When I am at peace, do I know why? When I'm not at peace, do I know why? And if I'm not at peace, do I know how to come back to peace? That is the single most powerful experience in my life. When I say it, it means no matter what's going on in my life situation, I can come back to reality by inner conditioning myself spiritually. And it's not just relief, it's a cure. All that negative emotions and reactions simply stop taking me over, as it does for all of us, anyone who inner conditions themselves spiritually. So as you start, the first day, if you do it as we tell you to do it, guess what? You're going to say, hey, this was definitely a much better day than the day before. But as you grow in presence, you say, wow, everything Jesus said was exactly correct. I leave you peace. My peace I give you. It's a peace you can't find in this world. And St. Paul says it's a peace that surpasses all understanding. And once we realize our mind cannot understand what's beyond our mind, it has to be through stillness with intention. And be still and know that I am God means stillness is the foundation. And God wants you to have an intimate relationship with him. But I could have said that 25 years ago or 30 years ago. Had no practical experience to say this is really true. As we become still, we realize it is absolutely true. There is no power in this world as much as powerful as God's spiritual being in this moment. But we have to know how to get there, and we have to know how to return there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Practice of presence is all about.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording, and the thing that you had said is that the practice is experiential. We said a lot of teachers teach presence, and they make a good case for why presence is significant in our life, and why we should meditate. Why we should practice contemplative prayer and mindful breathing and things like that. But there's not a lot of emphasis on practice and experience and the experience that comes from that practice. Certainly, there's this idea that we should all have a morning sit or meditation. But actually, I guess I really want to emphasize for the reader of this book that this did not come about overnight, or there wasn't this moment where lightning struck and all of a sudden choosing presence was there. This really evolved out of your own spiritual journey. I tell people that Jim talks about participating in men's rites of passage, which is a ritual event, and having an experience on that changed the course of things for him. But then, it's 20 years later that you finally get to the publication of Choosing Presence. And in those 20 years in between, that's where you really start to practice presence and develop your own practice of presence and begin to teach it and bring that into a community type of setting with others. So I don't know. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. If you would have told me the power of presence that I've experienced for over 20 years, I was going to experience that when I started practicing presence, I would have probably been very doubtful. It was almost too good to be true. But as you practice presence, you realize it is too good to be true when we realize we're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It comes through stillness. Stillness is the teacher. The practice is the teacher. So if we truly want to allow God to stop our fear and transform our pain, we have to do it consistently. And naturally, hey, especially men, it's like, wait a second, I got to do a morning practice and I have to breathe throughout the day. First of all, it becomes completely effortless. Every time we're breathing throughout the day, say the hourly reminder. Sometimes I take 3 breaths. Sometimes I take 53 breaths. Sometimes 150 breaths.
Right.
Not because I feel bad, because I want to continue that sense of calm and union and peace within myself. But that's accessible to anyone who does it. But we're not going to believe it initially. Again, our mind cannot understand what's beyond our mind. And believe me, it's an effortless practice because if we're not breathing throughout the day, chances are we're creating unease throughout the day. We're creating anxiety throughout the day. And ultimately, we hit a dead end constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That practice of presence, putting our trust in God, putting our trust in Jesus' Spirit, is a power that I never thought was accessible the way I or anyone else who practices presence consistently experience.
You mentioned before that a friend of yours kind of invited you to put down some of your experience and your thoughts and to write the book that became Choosing Presence. And Choosing Presence to me reads a little bit like a journey, maybe your own journey through developing the practice of presence. Of course, it names the problem. It talks about bringing in stillness and why we do these sorts of things, and even talks about some of the things that we'll encounter along the way that will challenge us in our effort to become more present in our daily lives. And so, it really is, a very much of a personal narrative for each of us as we work through this. But what I think is also kind of lucky along the way is that just as you develop this book, you also developed the Practicing Presence app. And that would be one of, my tips and your tips, I'm sure, for the course, is to incorporate that, use that along with the book and in your daily practice of presence, because that, we're lucky. We're in some ways that we're in a time in which we have this tool. We have a phone with us that runs mobile apps, but on that phone, we have created the Practicing Presence app that allows that facilitates the daily practice. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Practicing Presence app?
Oh, it's invaluable, because getting first of all, in the morning practice, as we say, it it explains how to do the practice and what the spiritual benefits are of doing the practice and what the outcomes are when we do the practice. And getting that hourly reminder is excellent, because many years, obviously, I developed the app 20 years after I was practicing presence. And the hourly reminder, even for me, after all these years, I still use it every day. And one of the reasons I use it every day, when I first developed it, my wife, she had, prior to the app, she practiced presence with me intermittently, for a few days and maybe a week, and then she stopped for a week. Since the app, doing the morning practice and throughout the day, but in the morning practice, when we use the app in the morning practice, she has never not done it. She has never said, I'm too busy, because she realizes the inner experience and the value of staying close to the present moment. See, once we start realizing that all this compulsive, repetitive thinking is completely useless and anxiety producing, and we create so much inner fears and conflicts and worries. Once you start freeing yourself from that and you realize the choice is always, God never leaves the present moment. We leave the present moment.
Right.
And as we grow in presence, that is a power I never thought was possible 20, 22 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I've said this to you many times, Jim, but the two of the very valuable insights that you had in writing Choosing Presence and developing the Practicing Presence of app is that first you ground the practice of presence in the Christian tradition, and that's important for a lot of people, especially those of us in the Western culture that come from those backgrounds, where, as you know, it's easy for us to sit there and often think of meditation, mindfulness, contemplative prayer, breathing as Eastern practices, and that's so key. But the other thing that the app really allows you to do is remind us that this is not something we practice once a day. It's something that we bring into our daily routine, and this is also, the app also helps us to encounter our resistance, because as we use the app, it reminds us on an hourly basis, and we can set those reminders up so that we set the time frame up in which we want those reminders. But and so when you encounter those at first, you might experience some resistance, like, wait a second. But then over time, you really do realize that, hey, wait, this is an opportunity to take some breaths, to check in with myself and ask myself if I'm present now. And if not, do I know why? And can I come back to presence? It really is powerful over time. And so eventually what starts out as something you might resist, it breaks down that resistance and connects you throughout the day to the practice. So I really feel like those are just really key. These tools are key in our ability to find presence in practice on a regular basis. So you see, I'm getting still as I think about it. But yeah, calm me
It's
down.
it it's remarkable. Real change starts to happen when we realize we're not doing this. Okay. It's being done to us as we become still. It's a power, uh, the most powerful thing in each of our lives, because as we become still and put our trust in God's spiritual being, put our trust in Jesus' spirit, and then and then the inner response as we become still. That's what keeps us coming back. That is the energy that keeps us returning, because we know on our own, all we're going to do is hit a dead end, because most of the time, through all the compulsive thinking and repetitive thinking, we just get feelings of being alone and isolated. That does not happen in presence. And knowing we always have access, no matter what we are, where we're going. And even those times when we're, I don't feel like doing it. I just feel like I have all this unease or anxiety. And then you breathe. All of a sudden, it might take a minute, 2 minutes. All of a sudden, you come into the present moment. Then you start to realize just how powerful God's spiritual being is and how accessible. That's when we start moving to another level of inner confidence. And it just keeps growing.
Yeah, and you've said too that, and I just want to emphasize this before we move into some course tips, is that this is not about some people, you, myself, or others, trying to be holy or self-righteous or to practice something that we think is going to be our ultimate salvation. It's really about really just it's very simple. It's a very simple, very human practice, and we try to do this in community with others. That's why we offer these this course and the workshops and things that we do. It strengthens our own practice to do this together, but it really is very simple. It's about us coming into conscious contact with presence, or what we say is meeting God in the moment. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything in the book is me, but everything in the book is also all of you. Because doing this over all these years, teaching it over 20 years, all the people I've talked to, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
When we're in that unconscious mind, we're all in that same pool of useless, compulsive, repetitive thinking that does nothing but create inner conflicts within ourselves.
Mm.
And the freedom from that, knowing that it's always God's spiritual energy that is energizing us and freeing us from the inside. That's why we keep coming back.
Right. Right. Let's offer, at this point, let's offer a couple of course tips, things that we think are important as people work their way through this self-paced course to keep in mind. Because we've learned quite a bit over the last few years of offering these workshops and have our own experience working through this. And one of them is each person should give themselves some time with this book and with each chapter. We really don't want people to rush through the book. It is a book that you can read probably in one sitting if you give yourself a few hours. But will you really get the best experience out of it? So we really want people to spend a week or so with each chapter.
Yes, that's essential. Don't overload yourself doing it. One chapter a week is more than enough. And you obviously should read that chapter at least twice. And
Right.
journaling the questions is absolutely necessary, because what you're going to find as you go in presence is that those answers become different after 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and beyond that, because you're growing in presence, the inner confidence of knowing no matter what the circumstances are in your life, God's spiritual being will take you through it.
And my experience is that by reading, we've all read books more than once and things like that. But what I've been able to do by reading this book more than once is actually connect different chapters, the themes of different chapters with different experiences I'm having in my life. So I find that to be especially helpful, because after time, you'll really find concrete examples of what is mentioned in the various chapters. For instance, stillness or resistance, or even negative thinking and gossip, those sorts of things. Those are chapter titles, and they really resonate with certain experiences that I've had in my life. So I find that to be really important. Now, we also really want people to journal. keep a journal, and to respond to the questions that we offer in this course. Spend some time thinking about them, spending some time writing about them. Is there anything else you can say about journaling?
Uh, it is definitely powerful because all the questions brings us inside. Okay. And let's say you start on chapter 1. Okay. Now you go to chapter 8, 8 weeks later. And all of a sudden you come back to chapter 1. It's almost like you're a different person as far as it comes to being still. And your answer, your experiences resonate with the answers that you're now giving. Okay. And that's what makes it so powerful. And like I say, every chapter is leading us to the ultimate end. And the ultimate end is we all want peace. But we also have to realize we cannot create the peace. Okay. Like presence. We can't control being consciously present. Okay. We can't create the peace of the present moment. We can only be present to it. And what it does, it absolutely, even after all these years, it humbles you daily because you know this power not only did you never experience before, you never imagined God's spiritual being, his spiritual energy was this powerful and also this personal.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to say too to the student or the person that has enrolled in this course, don't shortchange yourself. You've taken the time to enroll and begin this course and fully immerse yourself in it. And journaling is part of that process. Take the time. There's no hurry. You can come back to this at whenever's possible. Even if something interrupts your flow through this course, you can always come back to it and pick it back up. And so, but journaling is really a significant part of that. I'm learning that more and more myself in the different things that I do is to really spend some time and you will go deeper if you spend some time journaling. And speaking of going deeper at that, we talked a minute ago about the Practicing Presence app, but this course was not really designed to be separate from that. I mean, the Choosing Presence, the book, and Practicing Presence, a Christian Way app, both exist. And so we want you to use the app in conjunction with this course. And I should mention at the outset, it's absolutely free. It works on both iPhone and Android devices. There's no registration or anything special you have to do or in-app purchases. Just go get it. We provide the links for you to download it. And I think you'll find it very well. We do have some tutorials for how to use it, but I think you'll find it very easy to just begin the morning practice with that app. So, yeah. And I know that I continue to use it every morning. And Jim, you continue to use the app every day as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And believe me, as you grow in presence, it's an effortless procedure. It's an effortless procedure
Right.
because you want, as we say in the last chapter, we all want peace. We know where the source of that peace comes from. Okay. And we're not going to control it or create it. We can only be present to it.
And the last of the tips that I want to offer is that, as you go through, there's a lot of resources that we provide in the Choosing Presence community on our website, on our YouTube channel. We also have workshops and periodically we host a Q&A with Jim Heaney and Jim Taylor. And we also have a weekly email that we send out right now that talks about aspects of Choosing Presence. So those are available to you. And we want to invite you into those and also your feedback. We want to hear about your experiences, and even if you have some suggestions that might be helpful to you that we can add to the course at some point. So that's really important. And so enjoy this experience. Work hard, enjoy, but also enjoy this experiences, and we're here to help facilitate you along the way. And with that, Jim, I'll end my piece, but I want to invite you to offer the last word to the people that are about to take this course.
Yeah, I think what you'll find as you go through the course, you practice presence, and do the practices as we talk about it. Have had all these years experience doing, it will become an integral part of your life. As I say, uh, I practice presence as though my life depended on it.
Yeah.
And my spiritual life does depend on it, which means my practical life does depend on it. And I'm sure as you go in present, you'll feel the same way. Peace.
Peace. Thank you. Enjoy.